AskReddit asks, what's the most awkward situation you've ever been in with a stranger? I work security at an aquatic theme park and was watching Jeopardy in the employee entrance. One of the veterinarians came through and watched it with me for a bit. He said he watches it religiously and he'd passed the test for the show and was hoping to get selected. He'd heard that they like to have a diverse group of contestants. And they hadn't had a black guy for a while. So he liked his chances. A few days later, there are 2 black contestants. So when I see him leaving the next time I say, "Hey, did you catch Jeopardy last week?" "No." "Why?" He responds, "There were 2 black guys on it." I explain. He just stares at me blankly for a few seconds. And walks off. That's when I realized it was a different gentleman than I had the previous conversation with.
Fuick dude.
This is possibly the fucking funniest comment I have ever seen in a thread. Well done.
In the cinema, I interlocked my fingers with the kid sitting beside me for a full minute. Turns out, he wasn't my kid. That happened to me as a kid in the mall. Got lost inside a store and randomly reached out to a mother's hand. Only to find out a couple minutes later it wasn't my mom. Luladit. Typo.
Oh, God. This one killed me. How old was this kid?
Got on an elevator with a woman and she had on these really nice boots, so I complimented them by saying, "Nice boots." She cups her breast and says, "Well, you're not shy." "Thank you, they're real," and then immediately realized I said boots. She thought I said, "Nice boobs." Longest elevator ride ever. To this day, whenever I say boots in any context, I do so with a very hard deliberate T-edit. Thanks for all the upvotes, everyone. For the record, I did say, "Well, those are nice too," in my head.
Her reaction was awesome. I've had this same thing happen to me with one of my employees. Luckily she deciphered what I actually said before it got too weird. And yeah, a very hard T from now on for me.
The most awkward moment of my life thus far was with a stranger. I was in Quebec Airport going through customs with my family. Because of some recent changes to their system, they didn't have everyone in a line, but instead in a large pen where they would release approximately 50 people at a time. Chaos. When my family is at the front, they release us and everyone is running forward in a mass trying to get to the kiosks. Next to me is a tall Swedish man trying to get his family a kiosk. He is running forward and waving his arm behind him in a come-on motion, clearly frantic. Well, somehow the worlds aligned where his middle and pointed finger went perfectly into my 2 nose holes. Perfectly. As he then ripped his arm upwards to motion his family forward. My nose was also ripped forward. And I immediately began bleeding everywhere. He looked at me in horror. My family looked at me in frustration as we needed to get to a kiosk. The customs agents looked at me in bewilderment. The language barriers made the situation all the more awkward. Edit. Wow! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. You all really seem to love my misadventures, ha ha ha. If y'all thought this was funny, you'd be dying at the first time I had to give a drug test for work. Exclamation mark. Real talk. Never flail your arm without looking winking face.
Woman at a gas station didn't know how to put air in her tires, so I helped her because I wanted to put air in my tires and didn't want to wait all day to do it. She called her husband on speakerphone to let him know she found some nice man to help her air her tires. Then I hear him call her an idiot and say that I'm only helping her because I want to fuck her, and where does she get off talking to other men? She stammered and tried to explain that nothing was going on between us. After she got off the phone, she looked at me as if her husband just caught her fucking me and got in her car and left. No thank you. No nothing. And for some reason I felt guilty for even helping her out. Jesus, I feel awkward just thinking about it.
The first time I hung out with a girl acquaintance I knew from a bar. I paid for dinner because she had comped me so many cocktails before. She took that as a sign I wanted to sleep with her and got really uncomfortable. And I ended up apologizing for buying dinner. LMAO. Fuick dude.
I'm fucking dead. Oh my god.
At the airport, I walk up as the elevator door is closing and there is a woman inside with a stroller. I slowed down because I wasn't in a hurry and would rather catch the next one. Then I saw a little girl about 2 or 3 is playing in a flower pot thing nearby. I realized she was likely meant to be on the elevator with her mom. But the doors are closed by the time I put it together. I walk up to her and said, "Did your mommy get in the elevator?" She just shyly smiles. I sit down with her and decide to wait in place for a few minutes for the mom to realize. A minute or 2 later, a man walks up and says, "Excuse me, can I have child?" In a thick Russian Y accent. I was trying to decide what to ask to figure out if she was his kid. When the elevator door reopened and the woman came flying out yelling for the girl. She hops up happily and runs over to the mom. I stared at Guy with an accusing look. Then he turned and got in the elevator too. IDK, what the heck was going on there? Was he with them? Did he think I was trying to take the kid? Was he a creeper following him? So awkward. I literally sat a day silent through the whole weird encounter.
It was my first time voting in a presidential election in 2016 since becoming old enough to do so. And polling place was at a library. When I get to the front of the line and start filling out the required papers, I mention it's my first time and what to do next. After hearing this, the woman who was working there and helping me raised her voice and said, "Hey everyone. We've got a first-time voter here." And started clapping so they all would clap as well. Nobody clapped, and I was just standing there really embarrassed before quietly saying, "Can I just go vote now?" Quote.
My wife and I went out for a drink one night. We walk into the bar. I see someone I know at the bar with their back turned. Walk up behind them and tickled their sides. Turned and I didn't know this person. They just had me a weird look and walked away. Got their spot at the bar though.
Total power move edit. My highest rated comment. Really guys?
Hooked up with a guy in college and fell asleep in his dorm room. I woke up in the middle of the night needing to pee so fucking badly but unable to find any of my clothes right away. I ended up spending so long trying to find him in the dark that by the time I had enough to wear out in the hall to get to the bathroom I didn't think I'd make it. He was still sleeping, so I grabbed a big reusable water bottle and squatted over it. It was blissful relief until I looked over and saw his roommate staring at me in horror.
When I was young, I thought some random lady was my mum. And tugged her skirt. She turned, screamed, and I screamed back, not my proudest moment.
I hugged a man's leg thinking it was my dad. But I think skirt pulling is even more embarrassing. I wet myself when I looked up and it wasn't my dad. The man just smiled in an awe.
I know why you did that way.
Once I was in McDonald's parking lot with my friends waiting to get in my friend's dad's car. And I saw a car that looked identical to the one I needed to get into. So I get into it. And turns out it isn't the car I was supposed to be in. The stranger's expression of pure fear still pops into my head time to time.
When I was a teenager, my friends and I would spend the weekends staying up late playing video games and eating junk food. I was also a cross-country runner. And on this particular night I was experiencing some extreme chafing from a long run earlier that day. While we were at the gas station getting Doritos and energy drinks, I announced to who I thought was my friend, "Man, my nipples really hurt." Upon realizing it was a complete stranger with whom I had just shared this intimate detail, I simply stared at him and said, "You're not my friend," and walked away. I didn't go back to that gas station for a long time. Edit. I'm a guy for those wondering.
You're not my friend guy. Hangs head in sorrow.
Oh, God. This one killed me. How old was this kid?
It's not going to hold up in court.
37.
He wouldn't dress like that if he didn't want his hand held.
In a row! Exclamation mark.
Oh god, I had some guy in line tell me, "Nice boots," once and I glared at him and said, "Thanks." A minute later, as HES ringing out beside me in the self-checkout, he says, "Mom, I think you might have misheard me and thought I said something inappropriate." I just like your footwear is all. I started laughing and we were both so relieved lol.
You're not my friend guy. Hangs head in sorrow.
The picture in my mind simply is too entertaining.
The best and worst day in his life.
Well, you're uninvited to my birthday party.
I worked at Old Navy and some lady was looking at men's shirts and she stopped me and held up this shirt and asked if I thought it would fit her son. I looked around and no one else was around. We stood in silence for maybe 30 seconds before she started laughing and said, "Oh. Ha ha. You don't know my son, he lives in Michigan, we were in Washington State. Never mind me. I'm just stoned. Ha ha." And then she went and bought the shirt.
Some loser who doesn't know Greg from Michigan.
My mum asked some kid in appliance store if her boyfriend would know how to work the microwave she was looking at. She's a goof.
I was at a movie theater with my brother. We were watching Pacific Rim. During the action scenes he had to fart like a motherfucker, so he waited until the music was at its loudest to be inconspicuous. Second he lifts his butt cheek and begins, the music stops and all everyone can hear in the movie theater is giant foghorn of a fart. Imagine the music in action scenes. How it builds and builds and builds, then has a moment of silence for a bit more drama. Then a fucking shark-sounding fart takes it over. The reactions from the people in the theater were laughter. WTF? Question mark. S. And wow, really? S. We were laughing so bad we were crying anyway, just wanted to share lollited. Just seeing all the comments and that this made everyone cry with laughter made me so happy. Thank you everyone! Exclamation mark.
Ha ha ha, I was that roommate once. My old roommate's ex was a sleepwalker and was really bad when she was drunk. One night I hear my door open and she's walking into my room stark naked. She opens up my laundry basket and squats on it and I'm with my GF, so I'm whispering, "Amy, pissed. WTF are you doing? Amy, pissed?" And yep, she takes a big healthy piss on all my clothes. As I'm still trying to whisper her awake without waking my GF up, she just kind of snaps out of it. The glassy eyes become focused and she goes, "Oh my god," and runs out. Next day I leave for work and I come back to all my clothes washed and folded with a case of beer in my room.
Oh my god. Good on her for taking responsibility like that.
Almost makes the whole thing worth it.
It's not going to hold up in court.
He wouldn't dress like that if he didn't want his hand held.
Relevant username.
Yeah.
I had a boyfriend like that for 3 years. Driving down the street, my gaze pauses on a homeless man on the corner. Him. You're fucking him. I can tell. Edit. First, let me tell you all how much you've done for me today. I've been carrying around this guilt for so long and nobody has ever been able to touch it. Few have really even tried. Even though I know I made the right decision, I never really thought others would see it that way. I can't thank you enough. And I've never needed it more than right now. Second, thank you for the gold. Kind stranger. Third, another thing I've never told anyone is the person who helped me see that there was another way to protect the baby was none other than Dr. George Tiller, the murdered abortion doctor. I ran out a side door and down an alley wearing a hospital gown at his clinic. I was in a panic and scared. He sat me down and heard me out. Then he gave me the phone number for the adoption lawyer. He was so kind. Edit. The third part relates to this comment. https www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/comments/equigo Sint equals JQBFYAOA and SH equals A2E63F77 elsewhere in this thread.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day, you wonderful people.